Hello people, and welcome back to part 44 of Ilos, our modded Cities Skylines build. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Okay, so it was all support last time out when we came to work on a really wonderful little forestry build. This has turned into possibly my favourite, most organic industrial area we've ever done. And we've done some really nice ones on the channel as well over the years. But there's just something about organic rural forestry that really tickles the pickle, doesn't it, so to speak, for lack of a better phrase. So thank you for all supporting it. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And apologies that there has been no streams over the previous weekend and the previous week. We had some bereavement in the family, so please accept my apologies, and we'll hopefully be back to a more normal schedule now after you guys see this video. But in today's episode, I do want to return way back over to the Lake Havasu inspired area that we haven't worked on for a long time. We did a planning episode here ages ago, and just haven't come back to work on it since. So now is the time. We're going to be working on a nice pedestrian build today. Another one for Ilos. We haven't really done a dedicated ped build outside of the extension of the waterfront over here. So it'll be fun to sort of piece it all together and see how Ilos takes it on for the first time. So let's see what we can do with a pedestrianised lakefront in modded cities, shall we? Should be quite a fun build, this one. Okay guys, so it's been a little while since I've been over here, so we're going to start pedestrianising quite a lot of the spaces here today. So thinking I'm going to be running with probably sandstone. Haven't actually quite decided yet exactly what sort of palette we want to go for here. Bluestone could also be welcome too, alongside the cobblestone variant. It is quite nice. Sandstone would be the obvious choice for Ilos, wouldn't it? But I guess we'll just see how it goes. So we're going to use this road that we drew in sort of as a base frame. Of course, things will change as the area grows and develops, but we'll come to that in a second. Cool. This isn't too bad, is it? Not doing too badly for right now? Or just someone using it, even though there's nothing down here. I'm guessing you guys must have been driving on it for some reason, but at least they're here now. So we're going to do a really cute trick with Network Multi-Tool. Let's come in and grab our small sandstone road. And then we're going to open Network Multi-Tool itself, and then we're going to use its parallel function to snap a node up from here, up to here. And then we can just use the plus and minus buttons on our keyboard to adjust this back toward the key as to where I want it. I'm just going to have it pretty much about there, I think. Then once we've got that in, we can enjoy the fruits of our Network Multi-Tool labour. And now we have a very perfectly parallel segment against the key, which is fantastic. So I'm going to do this for the other major stretches of key as well, and then we can tie it all together and start looking at some asset placement around our major sort of touristic marina. So when we set up our frames like this using Network Multi-Tool, just gives us a nice bit of symmetry and parallelness, right? When we have the keys and the pathways lined up like this, really helps sort of bring everything together that little bit easier, doesn't it? So I'm happy with this configuration. Nice little trick with Network Multi-Tool for using that. Cool. So let's come back into our pedestrian roads, and it looks like we can pretty much centralize here, doesn't it? So we'll have that in there, and then we'll also have another entrance way down here once we decide what's going to happen with the cliff face. Because I would like some sort of arrival car park in here, maybe for tourists and holidaymakers arriving to the lake via car. Then they do have an option to park if they so wish, but the rest of the build is going to be pretty much pedestrianised. Cool, so this is nice. So there's one more asset I'd like to place within the sort of harbour area itself, and this is going to be a ferry line. So, okay, let's see how we're going to do this. Let's delete this section first. And we're probably going to need to delete these two segments as well, just while we line it up. So we can't Network Multi-Tool the segment via the... What's it called? What's that tool one? It's unlock segment, isn't it? Yeah, unlock segment. So you can't replace this with the pedestrian mode and the ferry stops. They just don't like it. We did try it in our creative mode streams, and it has been tried in testing. The game just doesn't really enjoy having that done. So let's bring them down. come down on different angles just so we get a little bit of thing here. And then what we will do with the decal, the cobblestone or the sandstone one, we'll have a brief little look over what that's going to look like. So we want sandstone pavers. Is this the one we want? Or do we want that one? Not sure. We'll probably try both. Let's go for this one first of all. So we want to come up with a linear fence fill. Let's go ahead and bang on that there. And then it's really kind of covering the bottom sort of pavement road with the sandstone to make it blend in with the rest of the actual sandstone road, if that makes sense. It'll come to fruition once we detail it up, but it's going to give us ferry access onto the island. And what we will do as suburbia grows around the island, especially over here by the lake suburb, once this gets developed properly, and we can have ferry stop here. That takes people further down the lake, where it will eventually meet with these trams once they're fed through this area, and of course they can get onto the island. So it's a very sort of small, almost unnecessary public transport introduction, but it's going to help detail the area as well, make the waterfronts look a little bit more alive. Already not looking too bad. We can possibly enjoy a view over to the rest of Ilos' sprawl, which should have a really fun sort of view come the end of the cinematics today. Right, cool. So let's keep talking about further assets for our waterfront. I would indeed like to bring in a roller coaster from the amusement park stuff. What I would like to then do is come in to find it, and we're going to grab some commercial. We're going to ask for 2 deep units, and then we want to really just grab just a selection of our favourite assets. So actually, do we want to grab a plaza out here first? That could be a possibility. We wanted to have a fountain plaza up here. Yes, I think we do. We'll knock it back a little bit. It will still maintain its connection. And then I'd just like to actually reset the object. Just so we get the sandstone ones. There we go, that's what we want. So this is one of the plazas that does reset and change its decals around. So I think I'm going to be happy with that. It looks like that's going to be a good opportunity to actually maybe introduce another pedestrian pathway. To almost round off that little fountain design. Okay, a little bit something like that, and then there's detail opportunities around here. Surface painter if needed. Some benches will be more than welcome as always. And then let's just bring our roller coaster up into the corner now. So of course always respecting the larger assets first, giving them time and room to breathe is always helpful. Right, and then we know we've got a little 2 deep space here now, so we can just bring in a whole bunch of our... You okay? Why don't you have... we will force zoning on you, Mr. Pedestrian Pathway. There we go. Yeah, and then we can just pick out a selection of our favourite commercial assets. Not forgetting things like tourism, after dark, etc. Things like this will be more than welcome here. Okay, and then we can just start to piece together these little commercial fronts. I don't want repeated assets though. Let's see, any tourism that might work nicely in here. Probably a few shots. Go for that one. Souvenir shop seems fairly sensible, right? And then is there a 1 deep we can squeeze in? There we go. Super. So just by selecting the size of the zonage you have and then mixing and matching between regular commercial, high density will be welcome here too. You can just create a really dynamic looking waterfront. That's going to help satisfy a little bit of commercial demand as well. And that roller coaster sits really nicely, doesn't it? Really quite touristic. Cool. So we definitely want some condos and apartments up here too. But let's go ahead and just continue to plop in a commercial waterfront here using all our different assets that we're fond of. And then we can start to construct sort of the main harbour around Lake Havasu, which will be named in today's episode as well. We will name it after your guys' suggestions. So we'll plop and then we'll be right back. Alright guys, there we have a happy little commercial front. Just a selection of our favourite assets, things we've used before. Mix some matches of workshop and content creator pack stuff. Some vanilla in there as well, a little bit of green stays. And just mooching through Find It like this and piecing them together, you can create some really interesting and dynamic little waterfronts. Or at least commercial fronts as well. You can have a look at what's showing. We've got Chirpzilla's on at 5. Paradoxical Perspective at 7. Colossal Cranium at 9. And then Shroomville at 11. That's a change from the regular programming, isn't it? It sounds like some sort of hallucinogenic trip, perhaps. But either way, it's happy and it's coming up together. Also extended the decals up here too. And brought in a little bit of hedging, just so it blends in nicely. With the ferry stop over here now as well. I've got the bridge as well. That's really cool from here now, isn't it? But otherwise, that's the basis for our commercial sort of harbour in. Now let's have a little look at what's happening up top. So there's been an asset I've been wanting to include in here for a while. And this is the mothership that came with the modern mid-century stuff. And I've just envisioned this sat on a slight angle. So it's here, just about there. And just a several little note here. What a wonderful little corner this has turned into, right? With that little raised brickwork on the flower bed from the train station. And then the bollards. Ignore the surface paint to crack, that will be tidied up, but what a happy little corner, right? This might be like one of the best corners in Ilos. Maybe we should do that, like a top 10 corners, top 10 street corners, maybe. If we're really struggling for content at some point, then maybe we can do that. Okay, so we've got a pedestrian area. We need to give them a service point, don't we? So let's come in with a little bit of industrial road, going to road length as well. No guideline here, at least for the time being. And then I'd just like to bring it down, and then actually one guideline for this section. Let's come in and hit there, and then come down there. And then what I'm envisioning as part of sort of Havasu's design here is that we will sort of have this part of the island that's behind the train station as the industrial service point, you know, where everyone's crap goes, you know, all this tourism stuff here will produce a lot of garbage, etc., a lot of sort of byproduct. And then it's all processed on sort of a dirty part of the island. And then with the back half of the island here, I would like to leave it quite overgrown. Again, you know, we've taken a look at Havasu several times in Google Earth, so we sort of know how the general vibe sits. A little bit of network multi-slope would be welcome here as well. From this point up to this one. There we go. Just even it all out a little bit. And then let's go ahead and throw down the old service point. So we'll probably just need a large pedestrian area service point for this area. It shouldn't need much more than that because there's not that many assets in. So I just want to grab the industrial area or the service point and then just bring it back so it kind of backs onto the train station. Again, so it's kind of hammering home that sort of industrial vibe. I think the train station is going to lend itself quite nicely to that design. But something I've actually come to quite enjoy playing with plazas and promenades is how can we sort of factor in the service point into the build rather than just leaving it somewhere else for it to occupy. I think something like that is more than welcome, isn't it? Again, if we need garbage collection for this area, bearing in mind the suburbs over here that are going to need to be serviced at some point, and then this would be a wonderful place for that. We could perhaps bring it one through here. Let's go ahead and grab a little recycling centre. So we could have this out here as well. Again, lots of chain link fencing around this. And it sort of works nicely, doesn't it, at the back of the station? Sort of the nasty processing area that the tourists don't want to see is all kept behind here. And we do have some people waiting for an intercity train as well. Some floating lemon, purple fanny pack, sorry. Yeah, at least it's getting used though. The top level is the passenger train, for which there is people waiting there as well to get back into downtown, which is great. Nice to see this station being used. We haven't really ever played with it on the channel before since it came out many moons ago. But I'm happy with it. Oh, there we go. There's the intercity train. Anyone getting off? Yes, quite a few get off, which is nice. Very good. And hopefully they're going to come and explore Havasu now. Maybe jump on more public transport up there if they need to. And then of course the cable cars are ferrying people back and to as well across the lake, which takes them back to an intercity bus station. Which already has people waiting for it, which is nice. So lots of public transport convergence again. There you go, speaking of the intercity buses, there they go. Which is always nice, right, for cities. Something we've come to appreciate now. Wonderful. Cool. So I did mention some customer car parking. I'd like to carry on working on this little entrance design here. So let's come into our parking roads. And we will grab a service road. Probably want to go for poorly maintained here, I think. Because like I want that sort of, like the sun has really sort of dried out the concrete, etc. And then let's go ahead and grab a couple of 22 meter numbers. We'll snap into the grid for these. And then we'll just do little stretches of 5, I imagine. That should do us. So let's come off the grid here. We just want road length. There we go. Come back into our service road and have these here. Now it would be good to actually bring this down here if we could. I think I'm actually going to keep it separate and then we'll wrap this pedestrian road somewhere else behind the build. Okay, so let's go ahead and remove this now. So I do know again I'd like another little layer of pedestrian pathway to sit behind these assets too, so we need to find the deepest one, which is there, and then I want to come up by perhaps +4. Is that going to be too harsh? Potentially it could be actually. Okay, we'll go for 3 elevation then, and we're going to come slightly off that road guideline. And then I just want it to be parallel with the waterfront one. We're going to have this run up there for a little bit. We'll decide exactly where that's going to pop back in a second. That's going to give me a nice little entrance point. So then I'd like to just snake off this service road. Let's come up for about there. Should be alright. We'll do that. Let's go ahead and grab a one-way 2-lane road. And we'll create a little roundabout here. Possibly 2 deep is going to be sensible. We probably could have afforded 3 deep if need be. And then I want to grab that service road again for the car parks. And then if possible, I guess we could actually just grab the segment and the node. Actually, yeah, I'm doing this the wrong way around, aren't I? This is just making it overly complicated. I don't need to do it like that. We'll just snap into the grid again, and then we'll do little measurements of 5 as they come down this way. Get it here as well. Let's go ahead and grab the service road. Okay, and we can hook these in. This will just create a little bit of introductory car parking space. There's also the option as well for a little gate here as well, which will probably fashion out of some sort of unique building. I imagine the tourist gate might work quite nicely here actually, whatever it's called. The archway, the unique building. Okay, and then let's just get a nice little happy slope up to the top of this roundabout now. We can start working with some of this very harsh terrain layer that we've got. Lots of rock and overgrowth detailing. If you actually head to Google Earth and look at Havasu, there is a water treatment plant on the island, which is, you imagine, would cause an incredible stank. But it's there for the tourists to enjoy. Okay, so we can have that in there. A little bit of softened terrain now. Everywhere else is going to be welcome. Just to help all this settle in a little bit. Of course, it could be detailed and rocked up. Trees, palms, etc. will all help it blend in. And then we can probably have this one meander down and break this section here. Let's come ahead with the little curve tool. There we go. Have that in. Again, network multi-slope. Adjustments can be made at a later date. Alright. So this will give us a little bit of introductory car parking. So I also want some... Again, just glancing back to Havasu, it looks as though there's some sort of holiday rental sort of vibes up here too. So I think I'm happy to have some of these in. And we definitely want to sort of spin them around though. So this is just the regular water wall residential stuff. Okay, let's have that in there. Also, we'll need to do a building spawn point here as well. Tremendous. And then again, there's detailing surface paint out here that can now be done. And to tie it all up. So I'll go ahead and actually get the parking spots down. And then probably ban parking on this road as well, rather than come in and park here if they want to actually come and enjoy Havasu's facilities, then of course they can. I have to say I'm very much enjoying this little waterfront that's starting to develop now. All the little layers here, see up to that train station too. Let's please everyone. Wonderful little build this one, really enjoying it so far. Cool, but we have dropped in our car parking now. And then also some gravel surface painter. Just so we get a bit more sand, I don't want concrete everywhere of course, because there's not that much concrete on Havasu Island really. It's sort of just sandy and left to its own devices out in the desert. So we'll try and respect that vibe where we can. So we've got a little bit of an entrance facility now. Some more assets probably want bringing around here. Plenty more detail as well, just so it looks as though something of an arrivals point. Alright. Via car, that is at least. Now what I'd like to do is head a little bit further round the island, because I would like to see if we can bring in some green cities towers to occupy a little bit of luxury residential space on the island. So let's come into our green city stuff. We're going to grab some high density vibes. And I know the asset I want to use is this one here. Okay, so we're going to place in 3 of these. And then we're going to do a little bit of finagling. So let's bring up some of these stuff here. And then we just want to start aligning them up. So all of these little sort of nooks and crannies just slot into each other like that. And then the same again for this one here. Just bring them up so they're flush. So it's just going to create that larger apartment block for us. Again, we've done this many times before in Ilos now. But with some of these green cities assets, we can generate a very kind of luxurious condo development on the lake. You can complete this in like a quadrant if you wanted to do 4 of them, but I kind of like the exposed back face of it here. And we can do some detail at the back of these too. So I think that's what we're going to do. So let's go ahead and grab them. And then we just want to start positioning them really at different angles. So there's going to need to be a ton of building spawn point work to be done here today to get these to look somewhat good. I'd also like to come in with a little bit of grass as well also in this area. Of course it's going to look a little bit garish at the minute until we decide exactly how it fits into the build, but just bear with it as always. Right, cool. So we got those in. Let's go ahead and just make sure they're not clipping onto the pathway. And then I just want to copy this configuration now and then just have it sort of randomly placed around like this. Again, please just bear with it. It's a little bit odd at the minute, I know, but we'll get there like we always do. Right, so maybe have one on the corner. Yeah, let's bring these ones over a little bit. Something like that. So what we can do now is drop in things like gazebos from the Park Life expansion. I think a touch of brown gazebo would be welcome. And then just create like a little bit of sort of open park space around these assets. I think a little bit of the Ilos lush belt would also be welcome in certain places, just to create a little bit of greenery around here. And then perhaps a community pool as well from the medical tab would be welcome. But as a very brief concept, what you can generate here is just some really nice open greenbelt parkland spaces all around these green cities towers, which is going to work really nicely. We could also actually continue to use the park life paths as roads, pedestrian pathways, if we wanted to, off of these ones to actually give them a connection so we don't need to building spawn point them. Which I think I'm okay with. Are we happy with this? It's a little bit weird here, isn't it? They don't blend amazingly well into the pedestrian pathways. I wonder if Node Controller can do something about that. Let's see if we can get this one here. If we square everyone off. And it's the blue friend that's causing problems, isn't it? Because he almost has like a little sort of end of road decoration there, doesn't he? It's a little bit strange, but there's probably some detail that can be done to hide it. And then we can just snap off now these little sort of pathways that encompass the facility where all the flats kind of sit. Give a sort of general impression. We bring it round here, then box it in. We can use that as a frame to hold all of these towers. Okay, have it in there. Let's make sure it fills the frame, and then whatever space we have left behind it is available for some prop detailing if indeed that's your kind of forte. Get involved with it if you like. Some repeated tree patterns around these pathways would look tremendously nice. Right, but you get the impression. I hope so anyway. Just a little development of higher end condos that you would imagine would be insanely expensive to purchase, probably a lot of them functioning as second homes. And then they have a wonderful view, quite literally up the arsehole of Ilos actually. They're looking right down the sewage sort of relief network here, aren't they? So yeah, that's that's the view that they're paying for, but if you ignore that and sort of enjoy the grander scheme of things, then it is actually quite nice. Okay. So we can definitely have some little green city development towers on the island over there as well. Okay guys, so the frame is slowly piecing together here. I think I want to have a little look at this back road now. I think we are actually going to have a little bit of road access down to those flats over there, so they have some sort of car parking. So let's factor that idea in. And it's also going to allow us to develop this frontage on the sort of entrance to the island, if you like, a little bit more too. Let's go ahead and go the pedestrian road. I'd like to ideally wrap the mothership up, so see if we can bring it into an angle like that, and that probably gives us a little bit of a better positioning to actually have the assets sat in this little corner, if you like. Yeah, it doesn't really change it too much, does it? I'm happy with that. We'll of course upgrade the trees as well. But I don't want the road to be like a major bit of infrastructure, so I think I'm actually going to switch down to the 2-lane country lane. And then we're going to do this. Okay, so we'll have this meander through the island. But what I also want to have here is this little nature reserve pathway that we've talked about today. And I think to achieve this, I'm going to come in with a little bit of park life road. Okay, and what this is going to do when we node control the junction is give us a really interesting junction. We're going to have this little country road here that's just like a tarmac street, basically just going through this desert island. At the entrance to the pedestrian pathway, which obviously looks like it does. The road itself with the trees, and then this little bollard here where people can get on the trail for the nature reserve, where we'll have a walking tour down here as well. So that should be really fun. It's going to give us a quite interesting junction on the island. Go ahead and get a curve in here now, and then we're just going to meander this country road all the way through the island and over to... I'm not sure. Let's just probably go to about there, I imagine. We'll configure some car parking around there in a second. Okay. Now let's come back to the idea of this nature reserve, because this is going to be quite a fun little sort of theme for the build here. So let's come out on a slight angle. We'll re-node control that at a later date. So once we've got the pathway in, we could just keep the pathway actually and ban the cars on it rather than switching down to an actual path. I guess that's going to be okay. How do these look at night time, these pathways? Yeah, they're pretty dim. That's kind of the vibe that I want. So yeah, I think we'll go with that then. Also allows us to place the assets on the road a little bit easier as well by doing it like this. So let's just meander this along the lakeshore, kind of respecting the shape of it if we like. And have it run through here. So we'll chisel out a few little kind of points of interest if you like on this pathway. We can have maybe some gazebos, a few camping huts, a little fishing hut down here too if we like. Bring that there, and then that can come into the country road, and then it can go back down and onto the pedestrian area. We do get a little bit of jank there, don't we? We'll see what we can do about that. Maybe a decal will help that settle in a little bit more, I think. Cool, and whilst we remember to do it, let's also ban cars on this segment. There we go, so we just hit ban all vehicles and then apply vehicle restrictions to entire road. That is what I needed to do. Wonderful, traffic manager is the best. Cool, alright, so speaking of kind of chiseling out little areas for them, let's do a little bit of terraforming here. And let's go ahead and grab the height of the water, and then we're going to terraform that a little bit. It's going to create a little bit of flooding, but it'll be okay. You can see some of these rocks here as well, giving us a little bit of grief with the terraforming. That's okay, we can just move them away a little bit. Let's grab that pathway. And then with these ones, I just want them to come down on pretty much a straight road, should be acceptable. Then let's dive into nature reserve, and I want to grab, let's go for the lean-to shelters first of all. Let's have one there. Then we can actually place this pretty far from the road, because we're not in the park life area. Let's do a little triplet of these lean-to shelters. That's kind of one feature of the lake, if you like. Let's also knock back this little pathway here a bit. And then we could place in maybe the campsite fire too. What does the other one look like? Has a little hut on it, doesn't it? Okay, let's do the hut then. And then we can have the hut there. Alright. So now we're going to have this little campsite here. Of course, there's plenty of overgrowth and cactus to be done around this, but what I would like to talk about is what the overgrowth is going to be like on this. So this is taking quite a bit of testing to get this right. It took a long time for me to be happy with this. But we're going to go for some high vegetation number 4. Okay, so I really just want kind of a general base layer of this, and we're going to have a little look at a technique here for just generating large amounts of kind of forest template quite quickly, just using Move It and a selection of your favorite trees. So let's go into content creator trees, because I know I'm going to want some long grasses in there too. Okay, just a general scattering. Don't kind of spend too long placing them down. Otherwise you'll start to kind of repeat a lot of patterns. If you be quite sporadic and random with it, it will just look a lot more organic. Okay, let's go for perhaps a touch of colour on the edge of those sort of dense overgrowth areas as well. Little pops of those favourite colourful bushes that we've got from the workshop. Okay, cool. Let's go for some brown grasses as well. Perhaps in the spots where the green vegetation isn't quite as thick. Okay. Let's go into our medium trees. We're going to grab a touch of California Shorty and place a few of these around. And we'll grab this one, this little number, this Canary Island date palm. A few of those in. Wonderful. That should be good. Maybe a couple of saguaros in there as well. Be rude not to, right? While we're working with an Arizona inspired build. And then definitely a couple, maybe just 3 palm plants here. Oh, actual palms, they're not plants, are they? And then a couple of content creator date palms, I think, too, would be welcome. And then we'll come down into the big trees again, and then I want some of those drier looking gummy numbers over here too. There we go. Yes, these are kind of the tree of the month at the minute, if you will, for me. And then what this will give us is just kind of a really super overgrown, dense kind of palm forest that we can use to line this nature reservey bit of the island. You know, you imagine, I've kind of seen it in videos where there's concentrations of water within the Phoenix Valley and it kind of just bulks up to start producing like mini forests. It happens a lot near the canal that carries Phoenix's water about. Cool. Okay, so now we just use Move It to grab that palette. And then I really just want to fill this entire space between the pathway and the water with it. So when we come to a different shape, let's just grab a slightly smaller selection with Move It. And then just keep rotating as well. So rather than having to place all of this in, and you can't have the vegetations in with a forest brush, you can just create these really thick kind of forests that look really super organic just by placing it and then copy and pasting the palette around with Move It. I'm really happy with this. It looks great to kind of walk up against here too. Can you imagine you're kind of sat here now and enjoying the fires with that thick palm forest behind you, and then you look out over here up to the mountains, which is a really cute view for people to enjoy. Very different from any other kind of view of Ilos, of course, which is so concrete heavy. So really happy with that design. That should be quite fun for us, I think. Of course, things just want to be tidied up here with a little bit of Move It by the looks of things. There we go. Yeah, let's just bring everyone down to this height over here. Let's go ahead and get this little pathway down. Let's do it off here this time. Let's maybe make it a touch curvy, so it's not the same all the way around. Let's come off any snapping. So we'll just do this, and then we'll do that. Clear up any unnecessary forestry. And then let's grab ourselves a fishing cabin from the nature reserve stuff too. I think I prefer cabin number 2. Okay, and thank God for the world of Move It, because we can now just say come down to this height. And then we can essentially line that up now with the height adjustment, so those stairs go right onto the pathway, which is just tremendous, isn't it? Really, really nice. And then maybe this can have a little lookout tower next door to it as well. And then we can dive into some of those favourite overgrowth palettes if we want to. Let's go ahead and grab a little bit of vegetation here. Sort of along the banking of the lake. Very overgrown here. So we're just left with something like that. Okay. Pretty cute and simple. Just a couple of nature reserve props and a few trees and overgrowth, but pretty powerful in terms of the impression that it gives us. And it's just another little feature along this little nature walking trail that we've got as part of the tourism offering on the Havasu inspired island. I'm pretty happy with it. Okay, not too bad. We can do a few more of these as well during our detailing, of course. But otherwise, that's going to be pretty cute for me. Let's head on down now toward the car parking, because I do want to sort of reconfigure these a little bit here and see what we can do to give them a little bit of parking. Also could maybe be here for like accessibility too. for any disabled people visiting Havasu. Go ahead and grab some parking lot roads, and we'll do a little measurement of 5, and then we'll do 10, 5 again. And just repeat that on this side. So this is a nice easy format for parking lot roads. Yes, once we got that in, let's go ahead and node control all the corners into bends. And I think actually with this corner here, rather than node controlling this one, we're going to have another little path connection just come out here. Something like that. And then we'll have that connect into these frames that are going to sit around the flats. And then with this road here, we can just upgrade that back into country road. And I guess it would make sense for this to come in here too. We might as well. This is going to give us another really kind of interesting looking junction, isn't it? Especially once it's been node controlled again. And just squared off, and then we can perhaps offset if we want. Although maybe not the green one. That looks a little weird. Maybe something like that, and then bring orange back in too. Okay, but again, we just get another really interesting looking junction now. Like, what a wonderful little network just to have in the city. Just a lot more interesting, isn't it? Node controller is a dream, everyone. It really is. Let's go ahead and bring up a little bit of move it now. And then we can pretty much just grab all of these and say come down to the height of this key, please. There we go. And then we can just do a little bit of softening over here so it's not quite as minging. Okay, cool. And then that natural side of the island can develop back up the nature reserve that looks up to the mountains. It's really cool. It's kind of it's a really awkward space to try and fill this one, but it's got a lot of different kind of unique ideas in it. It should be quite an interesting space to work with during the detailing. Which, speaking of the detailing, does feel like a good point for a detailing time-lapse. So we need to come in and drop in all of our boat props along here. I've just got a selection off of the workshop, very similar to what we did way ages ago in Few Candy Lakes over here, just where we have our little pier and boat props. And we're going to drop these in around the lake, so there's kind of some sort of marina, if you like, in various configurations. We can drop these in the harbour, so we'll have some nice boats knocking around in here. And then lots of tree detailing, some plaza spaces that need to be developed, probably some eatery props around here too, things like tables and chairs, bins, etc. There's a lot of nightlife here. People are going to need sort of the services like that. Expand some residential patterns with these condos, probably up until where the grass starts, and then wrap each of these flats in the little amusement park kind of frame, and then detail up some gardens here with some sort of appropriate residential props for the rich people of Ilos to enjoy. Imagine it's pretty expensive to buy one of these flats. Drop in any car parking, and then refine something of a entrance here using the high condo assets, or the wall-to-wall assets, and then just tie it all together in and around our entrance with some more plopped commercial as and when it's needed, and then tie up any kind of loose network ends that are like this so it all flows and interconnects. But really weird project, but hopefully a detail and time-lapse will help tie it all together as it usually does. So, we'll detail up the Havasu Island, and then we'll be right back, and then we'll name it. Okay guys, let's have a detailing review, shall we? So this area has really just developed just so wonderfully. In and around the car parks, they've dropped in lots of overgrowth, and it's just such a nice vibe out here. It's got that like country sort of essence to it, if you like. And yeah, just super happy with how it turned out and how it just looks from down on the street here. And then as we approach the train station further down the street, we arrive at some fused commercial around the end of the tracks, which ended up turning out really nicely. And then you can see we've also drawn in a pathway here, so the back alley kind of actually functions, and then they can get through the station, back through to the front, where they can also get the cable car as well, of course. And yeah, just a really nice conversion to public transit here, nice and busy. The intercity trains are coming in still as well, and the train from the downtown is actually extremely busy. We'll wait for one to come in here. Yes please, there we go. Yeah, so the top line is taking us to the multi-platform train station, which is that white building over in the distance there at the foot of the transport tower. And a lot of them coming out here to Lake Havasu, which is really, really cool. Super amazingly happy with it. And then they spill out now into the pedestrian area, which has been upgraded to the version with trees and then some of those condos positioned against it. And then we come into some prop detailing against one of our favourite workshop assets, with a little bench and a sign outside with the burger menu. Even though it's a pizza kitchen, but you can pretend, right? I guess it serves all sorts. And then there's just some tables and chairs out here with some heat lamps, which during the evening are actually a nice warm shade of orange, so you can stay warm during the colder desert nights if you're dining out here during the night time. And then this commercial front just continues with a selection of our favourite stuff that we've placed across the city before. Heading over this way down the nature reserve pathway, we've dropped in some bamboo fence, which is there to kind of like hide the industrial processing sector of the island again, which has been extended with our usual collection of prop detailing like containers, industrial fencing, overgrowth, all really as an extension of the service point, which then comes into some fused generic industry for which we had demand for, and then some spawn point work around a little kind of backup generator for the island, perhaps if the power goes down. Then the party can continue, so to speak. And then as we come down the nature reserve pathway, we arrive at the campsite, where we come down into some rock detailing against the shoreline, and a little kind of launch point, if you like, for some kayaks or other watercraft if you want to get out onto the water, which looks really cool here. The water's really clear, and it just looks very inviting, doesn't it, in the sort of intense heat. It's like really happy with how this little feature turned out, so this is really cute, just some of the kayak props from the nature reserve. On a little slope into the water. Very tasty and very vanilla as well, by the way. And again, we've seen our little fishing hut before, which is just super cute, really nice. Probably see some people sitting out on the pier over there too, through the grasses. Yeah, really cute placement, super happy with this. And then from the fishing hut, we ride back at the country road, where we come back into some more overgrown areas, with a pathway that feeds you back into the commercial up here. And then we come down into the marina, which has just turned out really, really nicely. We have some pier and boat props in here, so people can just knock about on their boats and whatnot. Really kind of lots of cool boat parking, lots of props in here. Some houseboat vibes as well. You just get a real sense of sort of the place here at this low to the ground. It's yeah, just such a cool little touristic waterfront marina. Just really super happy with it. The props really help as well. And then we've got a little boat yard here as well. Again, there's a collection link down below for the marina fillers collection on the Steam Workshop. This is all the piers and the boat props and this little kind of boat yard collection of assets here. All comes with that pack. So I'll leave it down below if you want to come and play with it. But super happy with this. And we've also used a vanilla key down here with a lamppost for some reason is sat here as well. That needs to disappear. But yes, just like as a little kind of slipway into the water for any boat repairs that need to happen. Just chiseled out that shape with a little bit of key work and just some clever move it tricks to get it all aligned and whatnot. And then across the marina we have extended the sandstone tiles out of the fountain up to the ferry harbour, which has some bollards on it here. And people are using the ferries, which is absolutely great. So currently this just goes over to the other side of the lake. To this ferry stop here, which will be developed as part of this suburban build over this side. But it's getting used, which is really nice, so super happy with that. And of course it will eventually link up with the Grid trams as well, which will be really handy when that comes to fruition, of course. And then just lots of walkability, yes please. And then we come down to my favourite bit of detail in the city so far. We arrive at a little sports bar where we've searched one of the screens from the Concerts DLC, and then some tables, a little bit of hedging, and an extension of some of the commercial assets just to create like a little sort of popular spot for, you know, if the game is on while you're away, then you'd come to this pub on the harbour to, you know, watch the match. So hopefully that vibe sort of comes across. Really happy with this sort of little build here. It's very cute. It's very just, yes please, isn't it? I'm really happy with this. And then we come into the green, expensive sort of apartments over here, which has been finished off with a little bit of prop work, some gazebos, a little few planters and some surface painter with a little park in here as well. And then we come down to this little flower garden with a bird bath through here and some benches knocking about before coming back into the car park. And that again helps serve the island, which is getting used, which is nice. So there is actually a couple of different car parking spots all across the island itself. And then around the back of this commercial, again, it's just been a simple extension of a kind of delivery service area around the back of commercial, which we've used before in the city. Again, it's a collection of kind of our crate patterns and forklifts, containers and whatnot. These are all things that we're familiar with in Ilos these days. But otherwise, guys, that is going to do it for today. Let's thank you all so much for watching. If you've enjoyed it, the likes, comments and shares below really do help me out equally as much. If you haven't enjoyed it, then leave me a dislike on it as well. Really happy with this build. I think we've really managed to kind of capture the essence of Lake Havasu in Arizona, which has been a long time inspiration for this sort of area. And of course, it will continue to be tweaked and refined, and we'll definitely come in here on the stream and drop in a few alien covens, which is always fun. Hang around for your cinematics, but otherwise I'll shut up and leave it there. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, enjoy the rest of your day.